Okay, good evening. It's Graham from Tri-Coaching Partnership. This is Adam Bragg from Smart Driving. Adam, introduce yourself. Let's crack on with this interview. Tell us a little bit about your life journey.
Life journey. I'll stick with this industry, I guess. I finished university in about 2001, I think it was 2001, and I needed a job. And I'd had jobs in bars and video shops, and the usual. Got bills to pay, Graham.
Yeah.
A girlfriend to keep happy, and and I saw this advert for a company called Let's Drive, who I'm sure a lot of you in this industry will remember, as an office manager. So I went for it and I got it, and that was 2002, and here we are now, 18 years later, and I'm still in the industry. Must like it somehow, somewhere.
Okay. So what did you do at university?
Ironically enough, I did English literature, and then I did graphic design. So absolutely nothing to do with this industry. I think, Graham, what happened was I found I just like working. I like being busy, and I found that very quickly I wanted to do this, and I wanted to do something else, and I wanted to do something else. And the business was growing at the time, and was happy to let me just get on with it. I did a bit of everything. I was operations manager at one stage. I worked in the marketing department, and then of course it went bust, didn't it? And it was bought out by the instructor college people. And the same again. I was young, free, and single by that point. And any job that they wanted some idiot to go and do, I put my hand up and said, "Go on then." So I've travelled. I've worked in Poole. I've worked in Dorset. I've worked in Kent. I've worked in Norwich for the instructor college, and I eventually became an area manager, and then I was head of. And now, don't blame me for this, anybody who was a instructor college customer. I became head of sales training. But it was right at the end when Red had come along, and we were trying to sort the problems out, and it was too far gone. And then out of the blue one day, Red got in trouble financially, big trouble. Looks like we weren't going to survive. And I got a phone call off a certain John Farlam.
Yeah.
Who I'd met many years earlier when he was peddling his draw-on products.
Yeah, I remember them. Yeah.
Yeah, and we used to use them. And fundamentally, the basis of the Red course is based on John's course from many moons ago. And he rang me up one day, or Graham did. It's Graham Lucas, his partner, and said, "Do you fancy working with us?" And I thought, "Oh, I don't know." And then, funnily enough, I went to visit John, just go and meet him and catch up with him. And I got a phone call off my boss.
Oh, look,
there's John. Talk about the devil.
Yeah,
he pops up. My boss said to me, the company's been saved. We've got a proposition for you. We're going to take 10 grand off your wage, and your area is going to increase. Now, my area was already quite big at this time. I was covering sort of Edinburgh down to Hull. Said, your area is now going to be Dundee to Lincoln. And I said, what's the alternative? And he said, well, leave. Got a bit of redundancy. And so I joined John and Graham, and we formed Smart Driving Instructor Training back in what would it be now, 2010.
Okay. So yeah, 10 years. That's probably about the same time, we were formed just before then.
About the same time, yeah, it was Graham. That's right.
Yeah, Tri-Coaching Partnership. And John was part of the Tri-Coaching Partnership.
Mm-hmm.
Once. But let's talk about you, because I'm interested in, you were with Let's Drive, you've got instructor college, you've gone on to Red, you've become head of sales training. How did you become head of sales? What did they see in you that made you head of sales training?
I was, I think an element of it was that I was young, and I think an element of it was that they could get me to do what they wanted, I suspect. And the fact that I was willing to travel the country, I hadn't yet met my wife at the time,
okay.
And so I was still happy to go all over. But I think it was when the new guys came along. I think that they recognised in quite a few of us that there was a determination to do things the right way. That perhaps now that the guys at Red are in charge of now are still doing that. They're still trying to do things much better than they did previously. I don't think genuinely, Graham, I don't know if you agree with me, that there aren't any shysters in this industry anymore. There used to be some fly-by-night merchants who were really trying to rip people off and take advantage. I mean, there's some businesses who, and we'll be one of them, our T's and C's are strict, our contracts are strict. We protect our customers and ourselves, and we don't mind admitting that. But we have we have a lot of success. And I think at the time, Red saw that I was willing to work hard and do the things, and that's how I got the role. But yeah, very quickly after that, I almost feel like a merchant of doom sometimes, Graham. And every time I've got to a good job in a company, it goes under. So, God better.
So what is your role now with smart driving? Tell us, because I don't know.
I'm a director. Me, John Farlam and Graham Lucas own the company, and I'm one of the directors with John and Graham. But I suppose ultimately I'm MD, general manager, a bit of everything. John and Graham both still work in the business, but I'm the full time boss, I guess. The day-to-day ins and outs of running the thing. I know you sometimes, it's great being your own boss and it's great being in charge, but I also do carry, I don't know about yourself, you've got a big team that work with you and alongside you, but you feel responsible for them. Yeah. And, lockdown, I think, is the first time I've really genuinely felt, I've got a lot of people, instructors, customers, trainers, PDIs, ADIs, and I felt responsible.
Yeah, so how did lockdown affect you, Adam? Because you're telling me about that feeling of responsibility.
Yeah.
And I understand that, because it was a torrid time for us as well.
Horrid, wasn't it?
We're flying pretty high, and to go from doing really well to zero overnight, and you're thinking, how long?
Mm-hmm.
And 4 months, it's a third of the year.
It's a long time.
Yeah. It's damaging to a business. We're lucky I'm still here, still survived.
I have to say, Graham, I think I'm surprised that as many businesses have survived. And to an extent, let's not get political here, but I think we have to thank the government's schemes to a certain extent that have helped people survive. Would any other government have done it? Possibly, probably. Yeah. We don't know. But yeah, I do remember vividly talking to Graham and John about what we're going to do and how we're going to do it, and having discussions. I think we had 2 days after, and it was weird, because every time Boris made an announcement, every sale of every part of our business went poof for about 2 days. And it picked up quite well, actually. Without sounding glib or condescending or anything, we've done okay, touch wood. Yeah. But I remember vividly coming home and talking to the missus and saying to her, look, what's the worst that can happen? The business goes under, we lose the house, and we go and live with our mum. Oh. And I think once I'd got that off my chest, that idea of what's the worst that could get me, I thought, sod it, we'll work our way through it. Yeah. Whatever comes, we'll make it out the other end.
Yeah, no, I'll tell you what, I'm 100% with you, because that's what got me through that sort of stoic philosophy. Well, shit will happen.
Exactly.
I'm not out of control, but I'm out of control of what can happen, and I just got to go with the flow.
And Graham, having gone through potential, you think about my career in this industry. I've gone through redundancies and Let's Drive going bust. I genuinely remember I had a girlfriend at the time. Talk about women again, but I had a girlfriend at the time, and she'd been my old university sweetheart, and she'd gone off travelling around the world, and she'd just come back, and I'd gone to Doncaster to meet up with her, and I was in my little Let's Drive Mini, and I was meant to go and meet her again for a second date, and I'd blown her off once already because I couldn't go, and I'd been working, and genuinely I couldn't. And then I got the call from Let's Drive's bosses to say it's gone under. Don't touch the car, don't do anything. And I rang her up and told her I couldn't come down, and she binned me. And like life does that. But at the time, I didn't have kids, and I didn't have the responsibility of all the staff and everything. I didn't have a house. I hadn't bought my own house. And I think this time was the first time it really hit home, having gone through all these redundancies and strange things happening to me along the way. It's the first time it really made me take stock and think, wow, John and Graham were great. John and Graham have been through it before with businesses in the past, their own businesses, and said, sometimes you've got to go through it to come out better.
Absolutely. So what's your daily work-life balance? What's a day at work look like to Adam Bragg? Yeah.
It's a little bit, I never switch off. I get into work 8 o'clock most days. I don't stop until I come home. I try and come home so I can feed the kids and put them to bed, and then I do a few hours of work again. And it's pretty much just like that all the time. I often joke that if it wasn't my business, I'd hate the job. Because it's just sometimes just constant firefighting and dealing with issues. And, at the moment we're bringing on a new member of staff. and we need a new head of training because our old head of training left and went along his own way. And trying to find the right people is not my thing. I don't like doing it, but I've got to do it.
Yeah, no,
You know?
and it's difficult finding what I call those A players, the A team player. You can find a B team player, but can you find an A team player?
And our industry is difficult, Graham, I think, isn't it? Because, you know, often people have come into this industry to get away from being bossed around by someone and told what to do. And those sometimes that you meet from time to time, you think, oh, I like you. You'd be great. They're doing their own thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They've got their own dreams and aspirations and businesses to run. So it is very difficult to get people in this industry who are willing to do a job.
No, absolutely. I just laughing at myself because I'm thinking, oh yeah, Graham Hooper, head of training. Would I last seconds, minutes, hours, or days?
I know.
Without telling someone to foxtrot Oscar and go, yeah, because you get used to it, you know. Well, you know, you get used to, but even so, within your own company, you still have to, you know, have discussions, and your opinions, you know, are not always taken on board because everybody sees things different ways.
I think with Graham and John.
Yeah.
Because they're not every day, it tends to be I just get on with it and do it my way anyway. But he's just appeared to come and tell me I'm telling fibs. But I mean, it's different. I think I've never worked with two people who, and it's going to sound quite cliched and corny, but we all have very unique skills in the threesome, the triumvirate. You know, Graham is very almost. What's the word I want to use? He worries and frets and thinks about numbers and always looks on the downside. Where I'm positive, kind of, right, let's do it. This is how we should do it. Look at the positive side. And then John, in the middle of it all, is the voice of reason, and I think it works well. But yeah, it's difficult as well because I'm, you know, as much as I've been in this industry 20 years, my having done the training and been trained and trained people and done things. I've never done this job as a living.
Okay.
You see what I mean? I've never actually done it for a number of years where it was my sole income. So sometimes I feel like a bit of a fraud when I'm talking to people, having never done it full time, you know, for a few years. And that's why I feel I do need some skills around me.
Did you ever become a driving instructor?
Yeah.
And are you still a driving instructor?
No.
You give that up.
Yeah. I've been trained at Let's Drive.
Yeah.
I've done the training at the instructor college. I've done the training at Red, and I've done the training with John and Graham. So I've seen every which way it can be done. And you know, I'd like to think if I went back to it, I could do the job and be happy at it.
Yeah.
Do it semi well, but I've gone in a different way in this industry, and kind of like you are, I guess, Graham.
Yeah.
You find yourself doing less and less physical hands-on.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I still do a couple of little bits and pieces for people when they ask, but generally speaking, you know, I'm at home. Now I'm at home in office most of the time. I have gone back and done a little bit of work, but you know, if people ask me what do I do as a living, I go, well, I'm a driving instructor, and you won't ever work out what I do as a living because I'm not a driving instructor. You know,
no, it's true.
I understand the role. So yeah, I understand that really but you're still an integral part of the industry and can think like a driving instructor.
Well, I think the other thing you sometimes get, I mean, going, you know, no disrespect to anyone watching this or any driving instructors, I was going to say normal driving instructors. What I mean is that someone who's doing the job every day. When you look at it from an outside position sometimes and take yourself away from it and look at the stuff around it as a whole, and a completely holistic approach rather than just the £25 per hour in a car, you look at the whole thing, you see it very differently. I think anyone who works in the industry has as much of a right to have an opinion as anyone else in the industry. Because if you're working in it, you understand it.
So what's your favourite part of your work?
Going home. I don't know. I have to be completely honest. I mean, I'm still very sales driven. You know, having been in a sales background at the instructor college and at Red, being a salesman for most of the time, I'm still very orientated about earning and growing the business. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I don't think there's anything wrong with wanting to earn a living. So yeah, I think that's the main thing. That's the main thing about.
So when that sale comes in, though, it's ka-ching, and then it's short-lived. Where's the next one?
Where's the next one? Because that's been a problem with our business, Graham. As you know, we've had conversations in the past, me and you, over a beer or in a conference or wherever. We've never had any intentions of running a driving school. So a lot of our customers are not repeat customers.
Yeah.
They're always just someone who comes in the system. We develop them, train them, and then out they go and join a school that we hopefully can rely on and trust to look after them.
Yeah.
But the industry's forcing our hand to actually keep hold of these people now. So we are starting to move away from the one-off sale to a lifetime of looking after someone as they come into our care as a driving instructor.
Yeah, which is very similar to what we do ourselves.
Yeah.
So what would you say to someone who wants to become a driving instructor today? Because the work, you'd have answered it differently 4 months ago.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we had a couple of very good months at the start of lockdown, because I guess there must have been people who thought, well, I'm not having someone else tell me what to do. I want to do my own thing. But I've always, I mean, anyone who's out there who was interviewed by me at the instructor college or at Let's Drive or Red, I'm very honest. I'll say to them, this is only the right job for the right kind of people. If you don't like people, don't do it. If you don't like training and customer service, don't do it. Because I'm always shocked at how many people look at this job. I mean, over the years, I must have helped recruit something like 20,000 people to become driving instructors, either directly or indirectly, when I was a boss of a team or whatever. Yeah. And the number of times I've sat in on people being interviewed and they say things like, I love driving. Yeah. I've been a driver all my life. I've been a taxi driver. I've done, and again, no disrespect to anyone who has done that, but blooming heck, this job is for anything but. It's not driving. Yeah. It's not driving. Driving is just the subject we are teaching. This job is about everything else that goes with it. You know?
Okay, so that's interesting, because that brings me, I suppose, to the next question, because, you know, the way that we teach people to become driving instructors has changed significantly, or should have changed significantly. So what's your feelings about the growth of coaching within our business?
I think as an industry, we have been kind of bound for decades by the preset tests, and by this idea of you're going to do 40 hours of training and do the preset tests and then go on the job and then you'll learn the job. And I think we've been bound by that. And it has taken, unfortunately, probably the DVSA has changed to the Part 3 and the standards check to finally allow client-centered learning and putting the customer in focus. It can only be a good thing. I mean, you know, having worked with John, and I know, having worked with people like Jane Taylor at Red and others who tried to instigate more client-centered approaches in training based on some of John's work, that a client-centered approach and helping people develop the skills of being a driving instructor and then learn how they apply to a subject has always been important. And then showing how it applies to the test. In principle, that's what we've always tried to do. But you're only as good as your worst trainer, and sometimes it's very difficult if you've got, you know, several hundred customers and several dozen trainers, and they're out there doing what they like 9 times out of 10 until the day you turn up to watch them and they do what you want them to do.
Yeah, and they're not practiced at doing what you want them to do, so they don't do it very well.
They're not, and the problem is, I think, that, you know, we are an industry where everyone in the industry is older. Yep. Typically, they've been in the industry for a long time. They were trained a way that was steeped in old style training, and they've been resistant to change. And I still find it flabbergasting sometimes when you read on forums people asking, "What should I say about risk assessment? What's the statement that I use about the examiner being in the car?" And thinking, well, why are you still thinking like that? Why are you still wanting to look for little magic bullets for the day of the test, when really everyone else is talking about how this all works as a whole? And it's about putting the customer first and training around them. And yeah, I welcome it. Do I believe, I remember having a drunken discussion with John years ago, do I believe a person could coach themselves and train themselves to drive from scratch? I still stand to be convinced, perhaps. But
okay. Well, I'm absolutely convinced that they can. Absolutely convinced they can. And I suppose one of the reasons is that if I wasn't a driving instructor, I could teach my son to drive.
Yes.
So,
yeah.
And I could maybe do that very well. If I had then some information that guided me through it, I could probably, I could just probably follow that information and teach my son to drive very well. So I think people, because what then happens, I think we could qualify, and then people will learn through experience.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I do think then, and this I suppose brings me on to my next question, really, because I think this is really, really important within the industry. Continued professional development. I think everyone needs it. So what's your feelings about CPD?
I completely agree, Graham. I think you have to continually learn. You can't think for any moment that you've done it. If you do, you're being ignorant to yourself. You should constantly strive to learn something new, no matter what it is, even something little. Every day you learn something. And I worry about people. And I think, again, I hate sounding snobbish sometimes, but I do think our industry, again, it's probably because a lot of people come into it. Sometimes it's their last job they're going to do. They've worked hard in another career. They've perhaps had enough of being taught, and they just almost want an easy life. They just want to get out and do their own thing. And this idea that people like us are going to come along and say CPD and coaching and learn this, they just think, oh, for heaven's sake, I've got to try to get away from this.
Yeah.
But I do like the fact that more of the customers we enroll now, I was going to say more at my age, but even then they're a lot younger than me. I forget sometimes I'm in that 40 to 50 bracket now, Graham.
Well, I'm in that 60 plus bracket, mate.
Yeah, I know, mate. You're doing well. You're doing well. But there's a lot more younger people, and I think there's a lot more younger people as well who are used to doing things online. They're used to the idea of self-assessment and self-reflection. Yeah. They're used to the idea of development as part of a career path. And because other jobs and other industries have gotten better at doing this by default over the years, our industry is slowly catching up.
Yeah. And it's a bit ironic that, we become driving instructors who train people. We're trainers. And then we become anti-training. It seems a bit, there's an irony there that doesn't fit. Yeah. Because one of the things, you were saying earlier about, people come into the industry because they like driving. People should come into the industry because they like helping and training.
They like people, absolutely.
And like people. That's the key. As you said, driving's just secondary. Driving's just the platform that carries those other skills. Yeah, it's the end product that the test. Right. But there's so much to learn as a driver that is life skills. That's why the DVSA have the motto "Safe Driving for Life." So yeah, I completely, it's good. I like to talk to someone who's on the same page. So I'll tell you what I'm going to do now. Yeah. Because I like it. If you're going to do a sales pitch for smart driving, what would you say?
A sales pitch for smart driving. I think most of the industry who look at development know who we are. And the one thing I like to try, and I think it's good to do things like this, Graham, because some people hear our names and hear the company and think of almost like a faceless entity.
Yeah.
We are three guys who've seen how this can be done badly. And let's be honest, anyone from Red listening and anyone from Instructor College listening, we did it badly in those days. We were all about the money. We were all about as little as we could do. And we are three guys who've seen it done badly, and we thought, we want to, we recognise that people will always train who probably should be doing it a different way, but cost and knowledge mean they're going to train with someone else. And we strongly believe that if you're going to spend money on becoming a driving instructor or development, then you should look and do it properly with someone who's got experience in the industry, can claim to be experts because they've got 10, 20, 30, 40 years worth of skills in the industry. Yeah. And I think that's the one thing I'd want anyone to think about us, is that we are just three guys who are trying to do the right thing, trying to earn a living, of course. Yeah. We're trying to do the right thing.
There's no crime in earning a living. I think in the last 4 months I've forgotten how to earn a living.
Yeah.
There's no crime in it. Okay, let's just change the subject a little bit. Let's go. I want to. What car do you drive, Adam?
What? Sorry.
What car? Brum brum.
Oh, what car?
Cars, you know.
Yeah, I've got a 5 Series estate for carting me tribe around.
Okay, so
and I've just got it back, Graham, because you know what happened the day before lockdown? I crashed my car.
Okay, right. Get it off your chest. Talk us through your crash.
Do you know what? It's ridiculous. I was driving to work, and out the corner of my eye, I saw a guy getting dragged out of the car at gunpoint. Or what I thought was, yeah. So I was like, oh, this looks tasty. And I was just cruising doing 30 mile an hour, cruising along, nice and steady. I know where I'm going. And the lights up ahead changed. And by the time I turned back, the car broke. You know, it braked for me. I could feel it stopping, but it wasn't enough to stop us hitting the car in front. I mean, nothing really happened. It kind of just went, but the whole front end was written off. And when I got out the car, and the policeman tootled over, because obviously he'd seen it, he goes, "You're all right?" He said, yeah, blah, blah, blah. And he's chatting away, and he says something about, "Oh, you off to work?" I said, "Yeah." I said, "Yeah, and you won't believe what I do for a living." And he just laughed at me. So, yeah.
So I'll just make that clear. It is a BMW 5
Yes.
Series.
Yes.
Because, like, if anyone wants to now come back at you about BMW, and look, I'm safe to say that because you know I drive a BMW.
Yeah.
Okay, that's interesting. Well, Miss Jones, what's been your greatest success? You can do this in life, apart from your kids.
Yeah.
What's your greatest success you would go in your life?
I have to admit, it's the business.
Okay.
It's going from always feeling that I was comfortable working for someone else when really I never was.
Okay.
I was naive and stupid to think that I was valued. I was just a commodity. They wanted to get rid of me. They could have, and I'd seen them be ruthless. And that's Red, who aren't really a big company in real terms. They're small.
Yeah.
And having built something literally from scratch. I mean, literally, we sat down, Graham, John, and me, and we did everything from the ground up, the whole lot. We built the course, we built the syllabus, we built the advertising campaign, everything, all by ourselves. And when we first got to the point where we were making a profit and being able to say, yeah, you know what, we've got a system here now, we've got something that works, it was a very proud achievement.
Yeah, cool. So how proud are you of that football team?
Yeah, for those of you that don't know, I'm a Middlesbrough fan, and tomorrow's the last day of the season, and we're in trouble. We're going down, I think. So yes, I'll always be proud. We need a point tomorrow, mate. We need a point. I'll always be proud of them. I've got a season ticket, and but yeah, it's the heady days, Graham, of when we used to play you, Chelsea all the time, and used to beat you, and used to think that was great, and now look at us.
I can remember a certain FA Cup final.
Worst day of my life, Graham.
Sorry, mate.
I know you like to bring it up. Worst day of my life.
I had 9 £10 doubles that day with Davina Mccall to score first, and Chelsea to have 1-0, 2-0, and 2-1.
Oh, so you did all right then, mate.
Yeah, I was good. It was a good day. Okay, enough of that. What inspires you, Adam? You know, what's that drive?
I've always been. I'm going to be quite open and honest now. I think perhaps because I've had a glass of wine. I've always wanted to be amongst my circle of friends the one who's got the biggest house and earns the most. And I think that's a little bit to do with my. A little bit to do with how I was as a kid. I was a bit of a show off, as you can possibly tell. a bit of a loudmouth. Yeah. And it's kind of stuck with me a little bit. I mean, hopefully I've become more sensible and mature and modest, but I think a little bit of that still is in me, that desire to be as good as I can be is always still there. It changes with kids. You know, I mean, I used to be able to work from 7 in the morning to 11 at night, no problem. And I think sometimes now I put my head on the pillow at 10 o'clock and I'm out for the count and I'm exhausted.
Maybe at this point I should ask your wife to step in and interview her.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
How many kids have you got, Adam?
I've got 2. I've got a little boy who's about to turn 4 and a little girl who's about to turn 7.
Nice.
Rosie and Teddy. Yeah.
Cool.
Good age.
Yeah, no, cool.
Very good age.
So, look, I mean, you're sort of fairly active on social media amongst ADIs because, you know, especially over this last 4 months. You know, I think both of our companies have tried to do something to help driving instructors over the 4 months. What's your thoughts about the use of social media amongst ADIs?
I think there's two things, Graham. I think there's use as a business. I think it's an important tool to have and use well. It's fantastic. And I see a lot of instructors do fantastic things with it. But I have to admit, and I think I'm safe to say a lot of the people who probably I'm talking about here won't be watching this video. The attitude of some driving instructors to their fellow humans, never mind instructors, is appalling. I've seen instructors talking about standing on people's necks until they turn blue. I've heard people talking about, you know, things that you just think you wouldn't say that in jest amongst your own group of friends. Never mind on an open forum with people you don't know. And I genuinely am an advocate that I think there are people in this industry who shouldn't be in it. And I also think that if I was in charge of the DVSA, I'd have someone who's a social media person, and I'd be removing people who's fit and proper, because anyone who can talk about race or sexuality, or just even use absolutely disgusting language to each other, shouldn't be a driving instructor. Because if we talked earlier about being a coach, and sometimes this job, even if you don't want it to be, if you're just a driving instructor who gets in the car, does the bare minimum, puts the minimum least of effort in, and just gets people through the test and doesn't care anything else, you still have an influence on a young mind. And if they're being influenced by someone like that, it's wrong. It's wrong. So it's got its evils, man. It's got its evils.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I like to think that the majority of driving instructors, it's like anything in life, there's a minority who tend to ruin it for the majority. And I think most driving instructors are good people. They're fit and proper people. And,
100%. Yeah.
And I think that there is, especially on social media, a minority who are very, very active, who are not fit and proper people. And it's a shame for the rest of the industry that, you know, it's like anything. You get tarnished. You go to a football match, you have 50 hooligans and 40,000 spectators, but the 50 get all, you know, dragged.
Completely. It is, you're right, it's the same anywhere. And I mean, lockdown has been a very difficult time for all of us, you know, but to see some instructors just brazenly make statements like, well, I haven't been locking down, I haven't been washing my hands, I haven't been social, I've been going out and doing what I want. You just sometimes think, wow, you know, this, even if it's just for entertainment purposes, that's still not on.
I think a lot of it's driven by fear of the unknown. You know, and you know, when people are not behaving correctly, there's quite often some emotional imbalance going on in the background, and so I try to take that view that there's something else I don't know about, and if they are
100%. You know, I think you have to do that, Graham, because you know it is true. Until you've walked in my shoes, you can't tell anything about me, and it's true. But I also have the kind of belief myself that if you can't say something nice, don't say it. You know, we've all got our foibles and our neuroses and our issues. We've all got issues, but some of us just bite our lip a little bit. I mean, we were joking just before we started talking about the number of times we've written something on social media and thought, well, what have I done that for? But yeah, I like to think that, you know, if I've ever done something that I shouldn't have, I'll hold my hands up and apologise. And if I'm thinking about writing something that I think someone might get offended by or get upset by, I won't write it.
Okay, good. Okay, look, this is I'm going to drinking because you might need to after this question. You might need to have a drink. This is the big question in all the interviews that I've done, and this puts people right on the spot. Okay. Yeah. All right. So this is the question. How do you think I rate as an interviewer?
Well, you know Michael Parkinson, man. But I think what was that girl who she's older now, but was it Davina Mccall who had her own chat show? And I don't really like Davina Mccall at the best of times, but she was terrible at it. I think you're better than Davina. You're somewhere in between Davina and Parky.
Yeah, I'm not Michael Parkinson. I thought you were going to say I was like Davina. I was going to think like, really?
Yeah.
Okay, so Adam, I've got a magic wand here. And you've won the lottery, the big one, the 5 mil. Yeah. What happens now?
Apart from the obvious, settle some mortgages for friends and family, I'd probably still stay in the industry. I'd probably invest in the business in the way that I've wanted to, that things stop you from doing. I'd still work. I'm a worker. I couldn't, during lockdown, I love being in the garden and I love doing bits and I love sitting in the sun. But then after 20 minutes of sitting there, I'm itching. So I'd still want to do something. Why not? If I've got some money to invest in the business, why not? Yeah. Okay. But I'd certainly buy the Ferrari that I've always wanted.
Nice. What colour?
Oh, red, man. Has to be red.
Okay. So this might go inside. What are your lifelong dreams? The red Ferrari. Anything else?
Do you know, I read you gave me a little email with a few things that we might talk about, which is great of you, giving me a chance to have a think. I genuinely, I think I mentioned it earlier on when we were chatting about, I've just always wanted to be the best of my group around me. And I guess that's still the case a little bit. But I don't really have this idea of, people have got the idea of a little cottage in the sticks somewhere. Or John always has this dream of a little tiny house on the middle of a lock somewhere. I just can't. I don't know.
The hill anyway. I mean,
unbelievable, isn't it? For me, I don't know. I guess it's the nice Ferrari and perhaps the sunshine somewhere. I'd like to retire in the sun. I like the warmth on me. My little white body.
Okay, I'm getting to the end of the interview. I've got a couple more questions. Go back to driving instructors.
Yeah.
How do you see their role in road safety in the future?
Do you know what, Graham? I'm sad to say I think it will diminish. I think it will reduce dramatically. And I'll tell you why. I went to the first car, and forget the exact name of it, the first car road safety awards last year.
Yeah.
And I think we've even talked about this, haven't we, before? There was the guy from Northern Ireland was on, the chief examiner, I think. And he was talking about some research they'd done. And there was an American scientist who'd done some research. And another chap who'd done some research from Norway or Sweden. Sorry, I'm being disrespectful to those guys. But they all had the same kind of rough advice that driving instructors were at the bottom of the social influences as to what made a safe and careful driving. I was shocked. It's more to do with the peers, their family, the things that they're doing in their own time. And the driving instructor was down at the bottom. And it made me wonder why. What are driving instructors doing wrong? That idea about the GDE matrix, about when does the commercial side of us as driving instructors stop us from pushing the GDE matrix to dealing with the person and the feelings of there has to be some of that in what we're doing, surely. But I don't know, a lot of people can't afford. In an ideal world, Graham, even if you as a coach, in an ideal world, an unlimited budget and an unlimited time and a very open-minded person, you could work magic with them. I do genuinely believe that. But I think in a real world where you've got people who've got limited money and limited time and just a desire to get through the test as quick as they can, as cheap as they can, you're going to struggle. Road safety, the medical teams and medical support is getting better. Cars are safer. And I joked earlier about my car stopping me from having a pretty bad crash. Yes, it caused a lot of damage, but I was completely safe. 10 years ago, I'd have probably broken my face. So I think that the driving instructor's position will diminish. I think we'll become facilitators of probably more to do with driving psychology around the vehicle as it becomes more autonomous. Okay, cool.
Yeah, because I think I believe there will always be a need for us. Our roles will change, but I think we will still be sitting there.
I agree. Yeah, there'll still be licenses need to be issued, and there'll probably still need some kind of assessment. And I think it will be more potentially about your attitude towards controlling the vehicle and everything else than the physical steering and gear changing.
Well, I believe that our thoughts and feelings drive our behaviour, and that happens in a car. The thoughts and feelings drive our behaviour. I think it's essential that driving instructors embrace coaching deeper. Because I think we could be teaching and training online to a degree. I think that could be where the future holds, and that we would be having coaching conversations with maybe 1 to 6. I'm the coach, and there'll be 6 learner drivers, because it will be about attitude.
Well, you've seen it yourself, Graham, almost because of necessity, I think. But what you've done in the classroom very well over the years has now seemed to translate very well into the kind of Zoom platform. You know,
Absolutely.
you've got a skilled facilitator allowing peers to develop a conversation and a structure. And I see it work. I mean, we've been trialing it for about 4 years. We've been doing Zoom work for about 4 years, and it's taken a while to perfect it and get it right. But I think we're all now, us, the AA, yourselves, are all kind of finding that actually we can do a hell of a lot more of the theoretical side of the process than can ever be done sat at the freezing cold side of the road of a car with no internet and no facilities and everything else.
No, I would absolutely agree. So what's your final message to the industry, to driving instructors right now?
Probably two messages. Post-COVID, I think is one I'll just come back to in a minute. But I think, you know, driving instructors do play a vital role in our young. And I think as I've become a dad of children, you know, during lockdown, me and the little one got out on our bikes, and I tried to encourage her about road safety, and just remembering back to my days of Part 3 training, how difficult it actually is to try and let someone make the errors, just push them at the right level, rather than to shout at them, no, don't do that, stop doing that. And I think we still have that role with 17-year-olds and 18-year-olds, that we should look at them as extensions of our family, and we're looking after them, and hopefully to go out into the big wide world. But I think the biggest message is about COVID. And, you know, we've said all along that July the 4th will be the day we get back to work, because that's when the rules and the laws are right, and perhaps the knowledge are right, and it's be safe. Wash your hands. I know it's silly, but do everything you can to make your car the safest environment you can be in.
Cool. Adam, thank you for your interview. Is there anything you want to add?
No, I just, at that point, John's just popped in, so I'll just leave him to have the final say.
Right, no, we're going to stop live streaming now, so I'm just stopping.
Thanks, Graham.
So
Take care of yourself, mate.
Cheers.
Cheers. Bye-bye.